He thought he was untouchable. The powerful CEO, the corner office, the suits, the silence. But one day, he made a mistake. A very public, very ugly mistake, when he insulted the wrong man. But before we dive into this true power shift, tell me, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. And if you love real stories where the tables turn, tap that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. The polished marble floors of Silverwing Global sparkled under the morning lights, reflecting the chaos of briefcases, designer shoes, and ambitious whispers echoing through the halls. It was 7:45 a.m. sharp, and the building was already buzzing. Fourth quarter earnings had shattered records, and the CEO, Nathaniel Crane, was riding the wave like a king. His corner office towered over Manhattan, glass walls wrapping around him like a throne made of steel and power. Nathaniel Crane wasn't just a CEO, he was a force. Tall, fair-skinned, with perfectly parted silver hair and an ego that filled every elevator he stepped into. Employees whispered his name with reverence and fear. Meetings didn't begin until he arrived. Smiles didn't form until he approved. But downstairs, in the basement level where echoes felt forgotten, Charlie Morgan pushed a mop across the lobby floor. His black janitor's uniform was neatly ironed, despite the age of the fabric. His hands were calloused, his posture straight, his every motion careful. Charlie had been working in the building for over 15 years. Few noticed him, fewer still knew his name. Until this morning, the spill happened fast. A careless intern, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, spilled his triple-shot caramel latte across the hallway tile right at the executive elevator. Damn it, the intern barked, stepping back. Charlie was already there. Without a word, he leaned forward with his mop, wiping the puddle in smooth, practiced strokes. His quiet work, as always, went unnoticed. Until the elevator doors dinged open. Nathaniel Crane stepped out, flanked by two assistants, scanning his tablet mid-sentence. He took one step forward, then another, and the heel of his polished Oxford shoe landed right in the freshly mopped path. His foot slipped, his arm flailed, his tablet flew, his ego shattered. The fall wasn't graceful. Nathaniel landed with a heavy thud, back first, a painful groan ripping through his throat. Everyone froze. Charlie instinctively stepped forward. "Sir, are you all right?" But before the question even left his lips, Nathaniel's face twisted with fury. He hit. "What the hell were you doing?" Charlie straightened. "Cleaning the spill, sir. There was coffee." Nathaniel's face turned crimson. His assistants tried to help him up, but he brushed them off. "Oh, how noble of you," he spat. The great black janitor, kneeling like some servant, pretending you're useful. Charlie blinked. The hallway fell silent. Even the intern backed away. "I'm sorry you fell," Charlie said slowly. "But I didn't spill the coffee." "Oh, but you're always here, aren't you?" Nathaniel sneered, dusting off his sleeves, lurking around like a ghost in the basement. "Tell me, Morgan, do you even have a high school diploma, or just a mop and a mouth?" Charlie took a breath. "I came from a military family. I served. I clean because it's honest." Nathaniel's voice dropped to a venomous whisper. "You're beneath honest. You're dirt, and next time you let me fall, I'll make sure you're mopping alleyways for tips." Then he walked away. The assistants followed, horrified but silent. The intern vanished into a side hall, and Charlie stood there, mop in hand, his chest burning, not with embarrassment, but something deeper. The hurt that comes from being stepped on by a man who saw only your skin and your uniform. That afternoon, whispers ran wild through the building. Everyone had seen the security feed, the CEO's fall, his rage, the insult, but no one said a word, except one person, a soft-spoken woman from the HR floor. She found Charlie during his late shift, wiping down the executive kitchen. "I saw what happened," she said gently. Charlie looked up. "Doesn't matter." "It does," she said. "They shouldn't treat anyone like that." He smiled faintly. "I've seen worse. Rich men fall harder." She hesitated. "Would you mind if I sent that clip to someone?" Charlie paused. "Why?" "Because you deserve better. And because someone very important might agree." Charlie didn't ask questions. He just nodded, and returned to his mop. The next morning, Nathaniel Crane returned to the office with a bruised hip and a sharper tongue. But something was off. Security guards who usually jumped to open doors kept their distance. A few department heads avoided his gaze. Even the front desk manager refused to make eye contact. By 10:30 a.m., an unexpected call came through. "Mr. Crane," his assistant said nervously, "there's a request for a private meeting, top floor, room 42. Nathaniel frowned. "There is no room 42. "There is now," the assistant muttered. He didn't ask questions. He went. The elevator doors opened to an empty floor, newly furnished, minimal and quiet. In the center sat a single chair, facing a wall-length monitor. Nathaniel stepped forward. The monitor blinked on. A face appeared, one he hadn't seen in over a decade. Female, black, powerful, eyes that saw everything, and a voice that made his spine tighten. "Hello, Nathaniel. We need to talk." Nathaniel Crane's eyes narrowed as the face on the monitor came into full clarity. He knew that voice, that gaze, that power. "Sylvia Jordan," he muttered. "I thought you retired." Sylvia didn't smile. She sat in a sleek, high-backed chair, dressed in a black suit with silver trim, her salt and pepper afro shaped like a crown. She looked calm, too calm for someone speaking to a man like him. "You thought wrong," she said smoothly. "I never left. I simply watched." Nathaniel's jaw flexed. "What is this, some sort of board evaluation?" "I didn't authorize this meeting." Sylvia tilted her head slightly. "You don't have the authority anymore, Nathaniel." He blinked. "Excuse me? Sit down. I don't take orders from—" I said sit. Her voice cracked like a whip through the room. Nathaniel, out of instinct, sat. Sylvia leaned forward. "I watched the footage. Your little performance in the lobby." Nathaniel's nostrils flared. "That was an accident. And that cleaner—" "His name," Sylvia interrupted, "is Charles Morgan. U.S. Army, Logistics Division, served in 2 off-world bases during the tech wars, came back, applied to every security role in this city, and was turned down again and again because of the color of his skin. So he mopped floors instead of guarding buildings." Nathaniel looked away. Sylvia's voice lowered. "You didn't just insult a man. You insulted integrity, dignity, and service. In front of everyone. On record." "Look," Nathaniel said, adjusting his collar. "Maybe I overreacted, but let's not pretend this is some HR scandal. He's a cleaner." Sylvia stared coldly. "And that's why you're sitting there, not knowing that every single board member received the clip yesterday." Nathaniel's breath caught. "You don't know how to talk to people, Nathaniel," she continued. "You know numbers, you know profit, but you've built a culture of fear, not respect." He scoffed. "Don't lecture me about leadership. I pulled this company out of the mud. And you dragged its soul with you." The screen blinked, switching to a live feed of employees gathered in different parts of the building, whispering, watching, waiting. "You've made yourself powerful," Sylvia said, "but never valuable." Nathaniel rose. "I don't have to take this. Sit down." He remained standing. Sylvia sighed. "Then let me say this plainly. I've been majority shareholder of Silverwing for 5 years, quietly, waiting. I let you play king while I ensured this company stayed ethical in the shadows." Nathaniel's hands clenched into fists. "You're lying." She smiled for the first time. "Check your ownership records. You never noticed because you only look up at the sky, Nathaniel. Never beneath your own feet." He stumbled back, pulling out his tablet, typing in override access. His hands moved quickly, checking records, ownership logs, voting rights. And there it was. Sylvia Jordan, 52.1% ownership. His vision blurred. "You have no legal ground to remove me," he barked. Sylvia's voice softened. "I don't need legal ground. I have the votes. You manipulated the board. I empowered it. They were just waiting for someone to lead with decency." Nathaniel's lip twitched. "You'd really remove me, over a janitor?" Sylvia stood on her end of the feed. "No, I'm removing you because you forgot what leadership looks like. You forgot what humanity feels like. And you showed the entire company the kind of man you really are." The door behind him slid open. 2 security guards stepped in, large, quiet, firm. He turned around. "You're not serious." One of the guards held out a black folder. Nathaniel opened it. "Termination notice, effective immediately. Signed by every board member." Sylvia's voice came again. "You've got 10 minutes to clear your office. You'll be escorted out." Quietly, respectfully, more than you gave Charles Morgan. He turned back to the monitor, fuming. "You'll regret this." She didn't blink. "I already regret not doing it sooner." The feed went dark. Downstairs, Charlie was restocking supplies in the janitor's closet when the elevator dinged. People murmured in the lobby. Attention filled the air. Phones were raised. Cameras ready. Nathaniel Crane stepped out, briefcase in hand, eyes cold and focused. He walked in silence, flanked by security. No words, just eyes. Charlie watched from the supply room doorway. As Nathaniel passed, he stopped. Just for a second, his eyes met Charlie's. Then he turned and walked out the front doors of the company he once ruled. The news spread like wildfire. By noon, the entire staff knew Nathaniel Crane had been removed. Not resigned, not reassigned, removed. A man once feared and untouchable was now a ghost, one hallway away from being forgotten. But what lingered wasn't just his exit, it was how it happened. The clip, the insult, the face of Charles Morgan, calm, composed, standing over the man who once called him dirt. Executives whispered in corners. Interns replayed the moment on private channels. The energy in Silverwing Global had changed. People sat straighter, spoke softer. For the first time, even the elevator seemed less tense. Meanwhile, Charles continued his shift like it was just another Thursday. He dusted the upper meeting rooms, changed the air filters, scrubbed the chrome rails along the 17th floor staircase. But everywhere he went, eyes followed. "Hey, you're Charlie, right?" He turned. A young woman in accounting, wide-eyed, holding a coffee cup too tight. "I saw what happened. I just wanted to say, thank you." He nodded politely. "Just doing my job." But more came. A group of interns brought lunch to the janitor's lounge. 2 IT guys helped clean out an old cart full of tangled wires for him. Someone even installed a new mop rack. Charlie wasn't used to attention. He liked corners, liked silence, liked peace. But things were different now. Later that day, HR called. The same woman from before, Evelyn, met him in the hallway. "Got a minute?" she asked gently. He followed her to a mid-level conference room. The window overlooked the city. The table had cold water, fresh paper, 2 chairs, and a contract. Charlie furrowed his brows. "What's this?" Evelyn smiled. "A new position." He hesitated. "Doing what?" "You've been here over 15 years. You know this building better than anyone. We want you as facility supervisor." Charlie raised a brow. "I clean floors. You manage equipment, track supply orders, coordinate routes, keep a team running. That's logistics, Charlie. That's leadership." He looked at the contract, the title, the salary, and paused. "I'm not looking for charity," he said. "It's not charity," Evelyn replied. "It's recognition." His fingers hovered over the paper. "I served my country. I never expected to be noticed again." Evelyn's eyes softened. "You were always visible, Charlie. Some of us just forgot how to look." He didn't sign immediately. He took the contract home, sat on his old recliner, stared at his mother's photo on the mantel. She raised him to work hard, to stay humble, to serve without needing applause. But her voice echoed in his head. "Don't let humility stop you from stepping forward when it's your time." The next morning he saw. Upstairs, Sylvia Jordan was moving quickly. She now occupied the former CEO suite, but she'd stripped it bare. Gone were the gold nameplates, the black glass desk, the private bar. Instead, a long oak table stood at the center. A circle, not a throne. She met with every department head, one at a time. Her orders were clear. Transparency, accountability, and humanity would now lead Silverwing. But it wasn't easy. Some still feared the shadow of Nathaniel's rule. Others resented the change. One man in particular wasn't happy. Colin Briggs, former CFO, now interim operations director, pale skin, tight jaw, always with a Bluetooth in his ear. He'd been Nathaniel's right hand, even if he kept his name out of the public. He marched into Sylvia's office without knocking. "You can't just rewrite the culture in a week," he snapped. Sylvia didn't look up. "I'm not rewriting anything. I'm correcting it. You made a cleaner the face of this company." "I made a human being visible," she replied, calmly. Colin's voice dropped. "You're setting a precedent that guts the board's backbone. You're turning this place into a charity house for underqualified sob stories." Sylvia slowly raised her eyes. "Say that again." Colin hesitated. She stood. "Charles Morgan was overqualified to scrub your floors. You let that talent rot because it didn't look like yours. This company doesn't belong to entitled suits anymore. It belongs to people who still believe in work." Colin scoffed. We'll see how long your feel-good politics last when revenue dips. Sylvia smiled. You're right. We will see. As Colin stormed out, he missed the security camera above the door, missed the recording light blinking red. Meanwhile, Charlie had a new badge, facility supervisor. His first task, revamping the safety protocols Nathaniel ignored for years. He walked the halls with a tablet now, oversaw an entire team, new uniform, new respect. But he still picked up the mop once in a while. Some habits are hard to break. One afternoon, while replacing flickering bulbs in the executive lobby, he overheard a hushed conversation behind the tinted boardroom glass. Have you told her? Someone whispered. Not yet, another replied. She doesn't know Crane still has access to the financial archives. He might be moving assets off-site. Charlie paused, listened, heart pounding. Keep it quiet, the voice continued. If this leaks, we all go down with him. Charlie leaned away, his mind racing. Nathaniel. He wasn't done. Charlie couldn't shake the tension clawing at his chest. Nathaniel Crane had been fired, humiliated in front of staff, stripped of power, but from what he just overheard, the man was far from finished. Still crouched by the light fixture, he quickly adjusted his earpiece. As facilities supervisor, he had limited security override access, but it was just enough to discreetly record audio from the boardroom feed through his new tablet. The names weren't clear, but the content was, someone on the board was helping Nathaniel. Quietly, strategically, illegally, Charlie slipped away unnoticed and made a direct call to the one person who had the authority to act. Sylvia Jordan, she answered with her usual calm voice. Charlie, I think Nathaniel's still in this building, he said quickly. Maybe not physically, but digitally. There was a pause. Go on. I overheard two execs in the boardroom. They said he has access to financial archives. They're worried about assets being moved. Sylvia's silence stretched just long enough to confirm Charlie's instincts were right. Where are you now? Third floor. Lobby maintenance hub. Stay there. I'll send someone to bring you to my office. 10 minutes later, two internal security staff escorted Charlie up the elevator. Sylvia stood at the window with a sleek device in her hand, scanning data streams as if trying to decode time itself. I've suspected he left a back door, she said as he entered. Nathaniel was always paranoid, built systems with layers of hidden redundancies no one else could find. Charlie stepped forward. You think he's already moved something? I think he's trying to burn this place down from the shadows. She handed him a stylus. Come with me. They moved to the inner data center, a restricted server room that only 2 people in the company had clearance to enter. As they passed security checkpoints, retina scans and voice verifications, Charlie glanced at her. You trust me with all this? Sylvia stopped at the final door. I trust people who've mopped blood and sweat from floors while others walked over them without looking down. I trust people who've had to stay silent when they deserve to be heard. And I trust you, Charles Morgan, because you earned it. Inside, massive servers hummed like sleeping giants. Sylvia moved to a central panel and activated the master audit trail. Dozens of file names appeared. Most normal, routine, until one folder stood out. Mirror accounts, echelon bypass. Sylvia's eyes narrowed. There it is. Can you trace it? Charlie asked. She tapped into the encrypted shell. The system hesitated, then spit back partial metadata. Multiple funds, hidden under vendor aliases, routed through fake shell firms, and linked to Crane's private account offshore. Charlie stepped back. How much? Sylvia typed again, froze, then whispered, nearly 12 million. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The server room dimmed for half a second, just enough to jolt them both. On the screen, a message appeared. Unauthorized access detected. Shutdown initiated. Sylvia hissed. He planted a data virus. If we don't isolate the server in the next 60 seconds, he'll wipe everything. Charlie moved quickly. How do I stop it? Cut the circuit from the maintenance grid. Use your badge to override the local panel. It's in the hallway. Now. Charlie sprinted out the door, bolting past corridors, heart pounding. He reached the emergency control box and jammed his badge into the slot. Override initiated. Are you sure you want to disconnect primary node 1? Yes. He punched it. The power to the data node snapped off with a heavy click. Back in the server room, the virus message vanished. The files froze in place. Sylvia exhaled. That was too close. Later that evening, Sylvia gathered a small circle in the war room. 4 senior staff, legal counsel, internal cyber forensics, and Charlie. This is what we know, she began. Crane planted a mirror access system before his exit. With help from inside, our goal now is twofold: identify his co-conspirators and file formal criminal charges. The legal rep nodded. With this much fraud and company sabotage, it won't take long. But Sylvia wasn't done. She turned to Charlie. You're not done yet. Charlie raised a brow. Me? You've become the center of this story, Charles. And this building watches you now, not because you embarrassed Nathaniel, but because you carry something he never did. What's that? Honor. There was a pause in the room. Tomorrow, she said, you'll stand beside me at the company-wide town hall. We're telling the staff everything, and I want them to hear it from someone who lived through the worst of it, and never broke. Charlie hesitated. I've never given a speech in my life. Sylvia smiled. Good. That means it'll be real. Meanwhile, in a downtown hotel suite overlooking the river, Nathaniel Crane poured himself a drink. He watched the news with a smirk as financial shows speculated on the sudden leadership changes at Silver Wing. He wasn't worried. Not yet. He was still convinced no one would trace the digital trail back to him, until his phone buzzed. A private message. No name, no ID, just a video clip. It was him. In the boardroom, years ago, bragging to Colin Briggs about his secret bypass system, smirking about the mirror accounts. The audio was crisp, the admission undeniable. Under the clip, a single line. You never looked down. We did. The large auditorium inside Paramount Innovations was filled to capacity. Every floor was represented: engineers, HR, marketing, IT, even custodial staff. A live stream beamed into remote offices across 3 continents. It had been 6 months since Victor Halston's removal. 6 months since George Ellis, the once forgotten janitor, had taken a seat at the table he used to mop beneath. And today, everything was about to change again. A hush fell as Sylvia Grant stepped on stage. No podium, no formalities, just her standing before the people she now proudly led. 6 months ago, she began, we faced a fracture, not in our profits, but in our values. That fracture came from the top. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. And yet, out of that fracture rose someone who reminded us of what this company should stand for. She paused. Not just leadership, but humanity. She turned toward the side entrance. Please welcome our new Chief People Officer, Mr. George Ellis. The applause started slow, then erupted into cheers, whistles, standing ovations. Phones lit up the room like stars. George stepped out, dressed in a black suit, but still wearing his soft work shoes. He walked slowly to the center of the stage, took the mic, and for a moment, said nothing. Then, I used to clean these floors, he began. Now I help clean the air. The crowd chuckled warmly, but let me be clear. I didn't rise because I was better than anyone. I rose because someone chose to see me. Because one woman stood up when it was easier to sit down. Because a company decided to listen instead of spin. He looked across the room. I want to be the kind of leader I never had. I want janitors to speak up without fear. I want interns to be treated with dignity. And I want CEOs to understand power without compassion is failure in disguise. Meanwhile, Victor Halston stood in a government building, flanked by 2 lawyers. The final ruling had been made, guilty of misappropriating corporate funds, stripped of all company affiliations, barred from holding an executive position for 10 years. As he exited through the back door, a journalist shouted, Mr. Halston, any comment about the man who replaced you? Victor kept walking, but in his mind one image repeated. George's face, not smug, not vengeful, just unshakable. That's what haunted him most. Back at Paramount, George sat in his new office, a modest space by choice, no gold trim, no marble floors, just sunlight, clean walls and a shelf lined with photos of his late mother, of his time in the army, of the old janitor closet he started from. He reached into his desk and pulled out his first employee badge, the one with custodial staff level 1, printed across the bottom. He clipped it inside his new jacket pocket, over his heart. A soft knock came at the door. It was Evelyn from HR. There's someone downstairs asking for a meeting, she said. A high school student. Says she's writing a paper called The Man Who Mopped Up a Broken Company. Wants to meet you. George chuckled. Send her up. Later that evening, George stood alone in the lobby. The same lobby where everything changed. He stared down at the marble tile, clean, polished, perfect. An intern passed by and gave him a respectful nod. Evening, Mr. Ellis. George nodded back. Evening, son. He reached into his pocket and took out a small folded piece of paper, On it, in fading ink, was something he'd scribbled the day Victor insulted him. A single sentence. I may mop floors, but I walk taller than you ever will. He smiled softly and tucked it away. As night fell over the city, the lights in Paramount glowed warmly from within. Not just a company anymore, but a community. And at the center of it all, a man who once stood silent, now stood tall. The end.